Simcha, celebration, Simcha, Simcha, celebration of life.
Hello and welcome to Simcha, a celebration of life. I'm your host, Aaron Halevi. In today's installment of Kabbalah and the Mind, Rabbi Wolf speaks to us about how we can achieve happiness in our lives.
Happiness is the journey. It's not the goal. So many people spend life striving for a goal that's never reached. A person who is wise knows that goalposts keep moving as we evolve in life. And therefore, having fixed goalposts doesn't make too much sense. So striving for some fictitious goalposts is a recipe for unhappiness. Happiness is the way I move through each moment, and the way that I'm allowing myself to do so through a positive perception of reality. Now, we can experience moments of happiness, but what we're really saying then is we're experiencing moments of connectedness. Happiness is much more a series of points of connectedness operating through our life. So we are upbeat. We're in a state of happiness throughout our life or extended moments. And we also, as I said before, use the word happiness for momentary experiential perceptions, and that's more in terms of the way I feel it. So we're using the word happiness in two different contexts. I suspect that what we're generally articulating is the sense of the journey, happiness in life as such, rather than the sensuousness or sensuality of any one moment, and calling that happiness also in the way that the English language is constructed. And then we move to yet a more spiritual posture, which is often called enlightenment. The word light, the word or, light, is a very, very beautiful metaphor that's used extensively in the Kabbalah, because the nature of light is so ephemeral, and at the same time it's so dominating. Light allows us to see, even though we have eyes, in the darkness we can't see. And yet light is not a substance as such. So it's a wonderful term to be utilized metaphorically. So when we say enlightenment, we're taking the word light and we're internalizing it. Now here's another dynamic we have to understand. We aren't static physically. Physically we keep moving and changing. Stages in life, bodily changes. I'll give you one classic example. We celebrate bar mitzvah and bat mitzvah. I often have adults coming to me and saying, you know, Rabbi, I haven't had a bar mitzvah. I haven't had a bat mitzvah. So I say to them, yes, you have. Rabbi, you haven't met me before. I'm telling you I haven't had one. And I answered, yes, you did. What do you mean, Rabbi? You see, bar bat mitzvah are not events. They're not even actually, well, they're certainly not at the party. They're not even calling the boy up to the Torah as such and suddenly transforming him into a man. These are external messages to community to tell the people, yes, that moment has been reached. But what's the content of that moment? So we learn, when we are conceived, not even born yet, conceived, we have a complete soul. And that soul is totally finished, a finished product. It's not a work taking place. It's finished. However, the body that's going to house that soul is far from finished. Certainly in the womb of the mother, it continually evolves. And then when it's born, it still continues to evolve physically very fast. And then the speed of its development tends to slow down through life. The last item, which is the physical completion of the body as such, is actually the brain. And it takes place at the ages of 12 and 13, approximately. When the body is total, then the soul is able to express optimally through the body, And at that point, personal responsibility takes place. We have true choice, and we are able to be mature in terms of the choice mechanism that I mentioned earlier. That is the moment of bar and bat mitzvah, meaning we undertake obligation of choosing to do mitzvot as such. And then there are other milestones in life. Like at the age of 30, we're told in Pirkei Avot that we reach our physical height of strength. At the age of 40, we start to attain wisdom. It's maybe why people start to go through their crises at that point, with a recognition that things haven't been so great till then, spiritually speaking. At 50, you're allowed to become a counselor. I mean, there are certain stages of development of the soul and body coming together in a more advanced state as such. And then depending on how you're able to grow and be able to reach that state of connectedness, you reach stages of enlightenment, so-called, which means a quantum leap where the whole nature of the world falls into place in a different way than you saw it before. It's like taking the glasses and putting on a new set of glasses and suddenly seeing the world differently. Moments of enlightenment. And there are degrees of enlightenment, quanta leaps that take place. But you have to be ready for them. You have to evolve, develop, train, become more sophisticated, and allow the 120 years to work for you.
The newly built Journey to Jerusalem Museum takes us on a journey of the Jewish people's history, starting from the destruction of the first temple until the present day. Situated in the tunnels that run through the Western Wall, visitors to the museum feel like they have been transported through time and are walking in the shoes of their ancestors.
So we're about to enter the Journey to Jerusalem. The Journey to Jerusalem comes to tell us the story of the Jewish people throughout the last 2,000 years. From the destruction of the temple 2,000 years ago, throughout exile, until we return back to Jerusalem. Now the wonderful opportunity you have here is to actually step into their shoes and get a chance to experience what they did, in a way. But more importantly, make the decisions that they would have made. In other words, you're in the situation, you have an opportunity to decide, do you stay in Israel or do you fled to South Africa, basically? Do you stay in Israel or do you go to Babylon after the destruction of the temple? So what it is you do will take you on the path and experience what they would have experienced. The way this is done is by movies, by videos, teaching you what happened throughout the world, what happened in Israel, and giving you an opportunity to touch the screen, thing that we do every day. And this is all based on research. This is research that we did here for 10 years with the top historians. And we have about 80 films, in other words, 80 different countries that you can choose to go to. Now, when you enter the program at first, you first of all enter this room that we're standing in right now, a 700-year-old room, but that's a new thing in Jerusalem relatively. You choose which one of your family members you're talking about. It could be your journey, it could be your father's journey, your mother's journey, and they'll ask you, is it your mother you're talking about, your father, maybe your grandparents, and they say, where do you come from? Just now, where do you come from? Your family's from South Africa? Great. Go back. Did they come from maybe Germany, maybe Lithuania? Where did they come from before? As far back as you can go. And you put this information in. Once this information is in, you click it on the screen and you get a color. You get a color and it tells you probably this is the path that your family would have taken. But once you're in that room, you don't have to go according to that path. That just gives you statistics of where you could have gone. Chances are after a certain period, you would have gone to one country, but you choose to go another one, and that's okay. You can do this again and again and again. 80 different movies, as I mentioned, so you can choose the path. You can pretend you're Moroccan. You can go to any one of the countries that the Jews fled throughout the years. So we've entered the room where the journey to Jerusalem takes place. This is actually a 700-year-old spa, going back to the days of the Mamelukes, that turned into a water cistern in the days of the Turks, and it's been pretty much covered up ever since. We've dug it out about a decade ago. Now we've placed all these computers here in order to welcome you to join the journey to Jerusalem. The temple was destroyed about 2,000 years ago.
It's good you came. The fire is everywhere. We won't be able to save much. But these pages are important. Important not only for what is written in them, but for what will be written. What you will write in them. Come. Come. We are not running away. We are leaving on a journey. We will return someday. As the prophet said, I am returned to Jerusalem with mercies. My house shall be built in it. Now, it all depends on you. Come. Come. Come.
We left Jerusalem 2,000 years ago and dispersed to all around the world. And now we're standing back here in Jerusalem. We get a chance to choose what we would have done had we been in our ancestors' shoes. Now, we initially walk into the first room and choose whose path do we want to take? Your personal path, your grandparents, your parents, and according to that, answer the questions. The questions will ask you, where are you from? Where are your parents from? Where are your grandparents from? And go back as far as you know. Once that information is in the computer, you're given a color and an area in the world that your family is dispersed to. You now enter the room and you sit in front of these computers. You get an opportunity to take a look at the big screen and see what happened here in Jerusalem. The big screen will generally tell you what happened around the world. It is divided to 500 years at a time. And then going back to your personal screen, giving you an option to choose what you would have done.
A fascinating journey awaits you. We are experienced travelers. Abraham, our forefather, set out on the first journey to the land of Israel. Get out of your country and from your kindred and from your father's house to a land that I will show you. The Exodus from Egypt, the journey that shaped us as a nation. And I have led you 40 years in the wilderness. Now these are the children of the province that went up out of the captivity, whom Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, had carried away to Babylon. And now that the second temple has been destroyed, we set forth on a new journey, knowing we will return. Every journey is a choice. You, too, will be asked to choose, to find the path taken by your forefathers on the long journey home to Jerusalem. From Jerusalem to Jerusalem.
This is all done in the highest technology possible. We've spent a lot of research, 10 years of research, finding out where the Jewish people fled to throughout the years. Generally, we left a country because someone was chasing us or there was something promising in the next country. But why? What happened in that country? What was pulling us in the opposite direction? Well, you get to experience these stories by films that we've put a lot of effort into to make you feel as if you're standing right there.
In the city of Babylon, one of the most magnificent cities in the world, the exiles establish a religious autonomy that is deeply embedded in the society around them. Even when they are permitted to return to Jerusalem, only a few do so. The majority prefers to live the comfortable life and yearn for Jerusalem from afar. Galuta, the head of the diaspora, whose noble lineage linked him to King David himself, is the leader of the community. The great yeshivas of Mehoza, Nahardea, Sura, and Pumbedita attracted hundreds of students. The Amoraim, the sages of Babylon, create there the Babylonian Talmud, the great gift of Babylonian jewelry to the Jewish people.
So the screen will take you back and forth to see what happened around the world, to see what happened in your personal path. You can make the choice according to what you personally think. You can make the choice according to the statistics that we've placed in according to the information you gave us. If you decide to fled to Spain, that's okay. The computer might tell you your ancestors did not make that choice, but it's okay. Go with your path. And you could do this over and over and over again. We have approximately 80 videos, 80 films that we've put together to help you experience what the Jewish people went through throughout the years.
Exciting, isn't it? We're just beginning. The journey continues. 500 years after the destruction, the Jews are dispersed throughout all the kingdoms on earth. Only in Jerusalem, there are no Jews. Once a year, on the 9th of Av, they pay for the right to come and grieve in the face of the ruins.
The fast day of the 9th of Av, or Tisha B'Av, is a calamitous day in Jewish history. Both temples were destroyed on this day, but it is also the day when Jews were expelled from Spain and World War I began.
For who shall have pity upon thee, O Jerusalem? Or who shall bemoan thee? Or who shall go aside to ask how thou doest? A sea of yearning, endless longing.
The room that the journey of Jerusalem is placed in is adjacent to the Western Wall. You wouldn't see it while walking in here because we're in different structures, inside tunnels that are about 700 years old. But take yourself back 2,000 years. None of these arches would have existed. You would be standing pretty close to the Western Wall itself and pretty close to the Temple Mount itself. So when you're sitting here in this room, you have to realize this was Jerusalem. Up till 150 years ago, this was Jerusalem. The old city that we call today was Jerusalem until the year 1860. So when we're looking for a place to place the journey that you will take, there's no better place to put it than the original Jerusalem that's been here 3,000 years.
The connection between body, mind, and spirit is mentioned in the broader Jewish concept of wholeness or shlemut. In this context, physical illness is understood to have both psychological and spiritual effects. Similarly, spiritual suffering or emotional turmoil may manifest itself in physiological symptoms. Perhaps that's why Jews traditionally wish a sick person a refuah shlema, complete healing. Rabbi Masinter tells us more.
One of the requests that we request before God is for healing. And the prayer reads as follows: Heal us, O Lord, and we will be healed. Save us, and we will be saved, for you are our praise. When we stand before God and we ask God to heal us and we will be healed, that's for physical sickness. When we say the words, save us and we will be saved, that's for spiritual sickness, which is as severe. And why should God answer us? When we say the words, for you are our praise, what are we really saying? You are our praise. At core level, each and every one of us are as pure as 24-karat gold. But just like gold can be impurified through other metals mixing in with it, so too a human being can be impurified through bad traits, through bad habits, through overindulgence. How do you purify gold? You put it in a smelter, you heat it, and you remove the impurities. When a person stands before God and says, God, heal us and we will be healed for physical sickness. Save us and we will be saved from our spiritual, emotional, and mental sicknesses. For you are our praise because I'm in a smelter at the moment, God. I'm earnestly, passionately asking you to help me. We are removing from ourselves any impurity. We are recreating ourselves and making us into new people, deserving of healing, both physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual. There's another prayer we say. There's another request that we put before God. We say, God, return with mercy to Jerusalem. Now, on a simple level, it's referring to the coming of Messiah, where there will be peace for all mankind. And we ask God to come back in mercy, because 2,000 years ago when the temple was destroyed, mercy wasn't shown. So we say, God, when you come back with the coming of Messiah, and there will be peace for every human being, please come back in mercy without war. But maybe there's a more personal meaning to that request. Commentary tells us that every city, every village, every nation, every person that's mentioned in the Bible is not there for historical purposes. They actually are found in each and every one of our lives. And therefore, Jerusalem is not just a place in the south of Israel. There's a Jerusalem within each and every one of us. What is Jerusalem? Jerusalem is made up of two Hebrew words, Yira Sholem, perfect awe of God. What does that mean? Well, some people don't have any relationship with God. Some have a relationship with God that's based on fear. They're scared to do something wrong because of the ramifications and the repercussions. Some have a shallow love for God. Some have a much deeper love for God. But the ultimate level of service to God is when you've experienced the Jerusalem within you, where you stand in perfect awe of God. It's beyond love. It's beyond any feeling. You just feel the greatness of God. Perfect awe. At that moment, you live with God within your life. It's a very black and white life. But sometimes we don't allow God into our lives. We remove God from our lives. And when we put forward this request to God, God, return to Jerusalem in mercy. On a deeper level, on a more personal level, we're asking God to come back to our lives. We're saying to God, please come back into my life. Because a life that is void of God is an empty, shallow, dark life. But when we have God in our lives, when we're living in our Jerusalem, when our Jerusalem is felt within us, when our perfect awe for God is experienced, at that moment we feel God in every experience of our life. It's a fulfilled life, it's a beautiful life, it's a warm life.
In chapter 6, verse 8 of Pirkei Avot, from Rabbi Shimon, the son of Judah, is quoted as saying, in the name of Rabbi Shimon, the son of Yochai, beauty, strength, wealth, honor, wisdom, sageness, old age, and children are becoming to the righteous and becoming to the world. As is stated, old age is a crown of beauty to be found in the ways of righteousness. And it says, the beauty of youth is their strength and the glory of sages in their age. And it says, the crown of sages are their grandchildren, and the beauty of children their fathers. That's all we have for this week's episode of Simcha, a celebration of life. As always, we'd love to hear from you, so please send us a message on Facebook at Spirit Sister Productions. From me, Aaron Halevi, and the Simcha team, have a fantastic week ahead.